Hello, my name is David Baugh.
My name's Elias Ware, and this is Recently Added. Since this is our first episode, let's tell you a little bit about our show. Recently Added, what we're going to be doing is bringing you the most recent updates on Netflix. And since there's 65 million subscribers to Netflix, I feel like this will be pretty useful. We all have it, we've all looked through it, and we don't know what to watch. And that's what we're here for. We're going to let you know what has been recently added, what has been recently dropped, news and updates on shows being filmed for Netflix and set to release. And also, we're going to bring you some reviews on what is on Netflix just to help you out if you're a little lost in that big old waiting queue.
And so we've created a grading scale to keep it the same for everyone. Everybody's going to have the same grading scale. We've come up with a 5-point system for breaking down movies. We're each going to give each category 1 point for giving it a total of 10 points. The categories themselves are going to be story first and foremost, so the premise of the movie, whether or not they delivered upon it, that sort of thing. The second one is going to be pacing, or how fast the movie moves in relation to, I guess, the rest of the movie. Then we have cinematography, or the way that the movie is constructed and the way that it's told visually. After that, we're going to have the actors, who make up a huge part of the movie. Basically, we're going to be judging them based on their performance. And then after that, we have production value, so the actual value that went into the production and the hurdles that they jumped through to bring the movie to you. And this week, we're going to start off with 2 reviews, being that this is our first episode. We wanted to start with a bang. We watched 2 movies. The first one that we did is going to be Open Windows. It's a movie about a guy that he has a huge crush on an actress, and he wins a contest in order to be able to go on a date with her. But when the date gets canceled, he gets a consolation prize, which is that he gets to spy on her through his laptop. The entire thing is told through the laptop window, and it kind of goes from there. It's sort of an action movie.
And it stars our boy Elijah Wood. Great actor, and it stars equally great adult actress Sasha Grey.
I hear she does well.
She does well for herself.
Penises.
With male genitalia. Alright, so to dive into our scoring, let's start with story. I will say premise, setup, everything, I wasn't on board with the story. It's a little too fantastical for me. It kind of runs away with itself.
Yeah, I'm not giving this one the points on story either. It kind of drags on a bit. It's like they wrote the script and it was, 30 pages too short, and they decided they really liked what they had, so they kind of just stretched it out. It didn't really play very well.
Next subject, pacing. Can't give it pacing either. It was another issue where they really like to beat their dead horses. They would state something, there would be an obvious thing that I saw, and then they had to state it out loud through dialogue in several different situations.
Yeah, I definitely can't give it the point either. It just drags. It's terribly slow in pacing. You get to the point almost every scene where it's just like, okay, right, I got it. Let's go forward, let's move on, and then they don't.
Moving on to cinematography. I'm not going to give it the point for cinematography. I don't like this whole I'm holding the camera at myself. There was a lot of screen capturing, and they would do screen cropping, zoom in on the screen instead of using an actual camera lens or, something crazy like that to zoom in. They just zoom in, it gets super grainy, just potato image. You can't see the characters anymore, they're distorted. I don't get the point in that. I'm not giving them cinematography.
I went back and forth on this one a bit. I am going to give them cinematography for this movie is told in real time, so it's happening as things are happening on screen, which is pretty cool. It's all done from the computer, which is a very strong choice, and I feel like it did move the story forward. Was it good? I don't know. There was some cool shots in it, and I feel like they definitely took the risk and they stuck with it. So I'll give it to it on that.
Next thing would be acting. Elijah Wood, great actor. Sasha Grey, that's yet to be seen. I would like to think she wasn't acting in adult films, but I can't give them the point. They just pop in other random characters in and out. I wasn't afraid of the bad guy, and a no for acting.
Yeah, I am not going to give it to him either. Sasha Grey should probably stay in porn.
She should stay in porn. Please do.
Her performance really, I felt, had a lot lacking. I mean, she plays the same note through, which is a very terrible note. It just reeks of, like, desperation, probably child beating and
daddy issues.
Just terrible things. You can almost see it in her face. I don't think the story would have lent itself to being good for actors. There was just a whole lot of problems with it. I don't think anybody could have pulled that out, even though I was happy that they got Elijah Wood for it. I don't know who else would be in it, but it's not his best work.
So, no for the acting. Finally, production value. What they did overall to put it into this movie, I will give it the point. They had several different locations, they had explosions, they had name actors, they shot that right here in Austin, which I love.
Yeah, and having made a movie myself, I definitely respect the amount of effort that went into making it. It's really difficult, especially you're changing locations a lot. They were driving around in a car. That's just terrible for audio. They pulled that off well.
But they did.
They really tried, and they really, I mean, they had an idea, they stuck with the idea, and they went with it. I can respect that. There was a lot going for it. In that regard, I'd give them the point as well.
1 point. Alright, so let's grade Open Windows. As far as I'm concerned, it got 1 point from me.
I gave it 2 points, giving it a total of 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10.
If you really liked ABCs of Death, this may be something that's up your alley. I really didn't care for it. This kind of has a lot of the same feeling and tone to it. It's very all over the place. It's very kind of in your face about it. It's very difficult to watch, and not in a good way. But if that's something that you're into, you should absolutely check it out. It's on Netflix. You can see it.
I'm going to say steer clear of this one. It has all the makings of a decent movie. Austin, Elijah Wood, Sasha Grey, decent director. It was a relatively cool novel effect. But not worth dragging through the hour and something that it was. I say stay away from it.
I'd probably not waste my time again.
Right? Never. But let's move on to a movie you should waste your time on. Battle Royale. Definitely a good one.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's about a bunch of kids in Japan where they, I guess in the storyline, they've created a Battle Royale law where basically the kids are running rampant in the streets, and the adults have had it with them, and so they basically decide that one class out of all of the classes in Japan are going to be sent to an island, and in that island they're going to have to fight to the death.
Let's kind of think Hunger Games directed by Tarantino, possibly. So let's just dive right in here. Story. I'm gonna say I'm not giving it the point on story. My whole thing was, we talked about the children are just apparently so bad that they make this Battle Royale law, but we don't ever see the kids being bad, and they don't honestly seem that bad to me throughout almost any of it. They seem, like normal children. Yeah, I'm saying no point on story for me.
I am going to give it the point on story. I think it's a very ballsy premise, and they absolutely stick with it, which is really difficult to do. It's 42 kids just locked together in a fight to the death. I think it's a very hard thing to pull off, and I feel like they absolutely delivered on the promise of the premise that they had set up, and I think, it's a very interesting story, I think. I definitely give it the point.
Moving on to pacing. This one, I love the pacing of this movie. there was a lot of kids in it, and a lot of people get killed, and it just keeps happening. You don't go too long without a death. You don't go too long without a location change. You don't go too long without the story moving forward. I like the pacing in this movie.
I am not going to give it the point for pacing. I have seen this movie a few times before, so maybe that plays into it. But as we were watching it again for this, I definitely noticed that you really cannot play up 42 characters. It can't be done. I can't like all of them. And if you try, which I felt like they were trying to get us to like them before they were dead, it's not going to work. They're cannon fodder. You made a story where it's 42 kids killing each other off. You only care about the ones that are going to be there at the end. Don't waste your time with all the ones that are just going to be slaughtered needlessly and in really obscure ways. That's what we want to see, not the other stuff. And I felt like that kind of drug it down a little bit. It's still very fast-paced. There's still a lot of things happening in the movie, but I felt like they spent a little bit too much time on that, and that kind of hindered that. So I won't give it the point for that.
No point for that. Next subject, cinematography, which I have to say this movie I think was shot beautifully. They very much take advantage of their location. Being on this island and it's very tropical, it's nice that they have a lot of really wide shots, a lot of long lens shots, as opposed to, you know, claustrophobic or really, really tight in there. They're pretty backed out. You get to see a lot of it. It's very pretty. I will definitely give it the point. It's not anything too crazy. It's just they really take advantage of the angles they can use and the distance they can get, and I really like that. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I absolutely will give it the point on this one as well. They did a great job of telling the story. It's not, you don't really notice the cinematography, which is a good thing, I think. It's very subtle. It's very, you know, simple on its face, but at the same time, they make really strong choices with it, and they stick with those choices.
And then moving on to acting. As a movie with 42 children in it, in Japanese, with subtitles, I can't, that aside, I can't give them the point of acting. Everything was very dramatic, very over the top. And then on top of that, it was sort of felt very mood swingy. One minute you're super excited, next minute you're devastated, next minute you're so upset and you're yelling, but then all of a sudden you snap out of it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
But I don't think anyone could have really stood out in a group of 42. True. I mean, it's one thing if you're in a group of, you know, 8, 9 actors, you may have somebody that really breaks out and does really well with that, but 42 people and very little story arc for any of them because they're dying so fast. I mean, there's 42. They're just slaughtering children the whole time, which is awesome. Something I appreciate in movies, but not something that's going to win me over with acting per se.
Alright, and on to our final category here, production value. What they did to get this movie done, the effort they put into it. 100% they get the production value point. I'm pretty sure we both agree.
Yes.
It was fantastic. They had an amazing location. Within their island location, they had several other locations, some of which they caught on fire, some of which they blew up, some of which they shot up. They also had helicopters and plenty of extras. They definitely put a lot of effort into this movie.
They did. It was very well thought out, even though I've seen it a few times now. I think
you've seen it a couple of times. Well,
I definitely watched it again.
Let's tally up our score here. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 on my end.
I am also giving it a 3 out of 5 on my end, so that puts it at a 6 out of 10, or right over the half. I would absolutely recommend this movie. It's not for the faint of heart.
Not for the faint of heart.
But if you're looking for some torture porn and you're looking to see a bunch of little kids die, you're not going to find much better than Battle Royale. It just isn't out there. I've looked.
Go for it. I don't regret watching it at all.
No.
I feel like you'll be very satisfied seeing this.
Absolutely. And if there's any other movies that you guys would like us to see, please comment below. We'll, of course, be picking as many as we can to get through this. And please subscribe to our channel so that we can keep you up to date and that we can keep in touch with you and make sure that you have the information that you want.
Right.
But until next time, good night and good luck.